So it's been a fun last few episodes of Unsealed for me as we've been opening up games in one of my favorite series for the PlayStation, Ace Combat. Started off with the original PlayStation games, talking about the original Air Combat before transitioning to Ace Combat 2, which is one of my favorite games in the series from 1997, and then Ace Combat 3 Electrosphere, which is flawed but still worth a playthrough. Then we got to the main show topics here. We talked about Ace Combat 4 Shattered Skies from 2001, the first Ace Combat game to hit the PlayStation, and what a game it was. 60 frames per second visuals, more radio chatter, more missions, more of everything that I really liked about this series, and it felt like a good build from Ace Combat 2 after Ace Combat 3, for me at least, was a little bit of a letdown. Then we talked about Ace Combat 5. We talked about the pre-order DVD, which is this guy right here, which I hadn't seen too often and was really cool to have. I still haven't watched it yet, but I plan to do that soon. And then, of course, Ace Combat 5, The Unsung War, which really sets the stage for this next game that I'm about to cover. This game is also great. Looks just a little bit better, has more missions to choose from, branching paths. This game is very, very good. To me, it didn't hit quite as hard as Ace Combat 4 did, but then again, when you're making a jump from a less powerful system to a more powerful system, such as the Ace Combat games for the PlayStation to Ace Combat 4 on the PS2, you're not going to hit quite as hard with the second game in the series. You have to wonder what else they can build on. But that brings us to the game that I've been looking forward to opening the most because it is my favorite game of the Ace Combat series. It's a little divisive because it's not really a brand new game. It builds more off of the backstory from Ace Combat 5, talking about the two warring superpowers and how the two sides came to dislike each other. I'm, of course, talking about Ace Combat Zero, the Belkin War, which is this guy right here. And I'm going to try and turn it so we don't get too much of a glare. This game is from 2006. So this game came out a couple of years after Ace Combat 5 did. Now, there's going to be some question as to why this game would come out for the PS2. After all, we're in 2006 at this point. The Xbox 360 has been out for a little less than a year. PlayStation 3 is coming on its heels. So where is the Ace Combat for the next generation of consoles? It would come in the form of Ace Combat 6 for the Xbox 360, but this was a really cool send-off, at least I think, for the series on the PlayStation 2, the platform that I think it excelled on even more so than the original PlayStation. So the build-up for this game, just reading right from the back of the case, the skies have no mercy. Defend the country of Ustio against an enemy that is smarter, faster, and deadlier than any have come before. Relive the events 15 years prior to Ace Combat 5. Welcome to the dogfight of your life, the Belkin War. Here, I think the thing that stands out to me the most is battles against other aces or other squadrons. Ace Combat 2 touched on this just a little bit with optional aces that you could shoot down in order to get medals. But here, these are full-on confrontations that you have with some of the best pilots on the other side. In the meanwhile, the story sequences are told not from drawn pictures that have some motion and a narrator. Here, the cinema scenes are actually full-motion video taken at least with people playing the parts of Belkin pilots who had known you being the pilot in this particular game. I thought that the way that this was set up was pretty neat. I liked the story build up. I do like the FMV just a little bit better than the drawn storyboards. Even though some people think they're cheesy, for me, I don't think so. I think that it's really enjoyable. But again, the fights against other aces or the confrontations with other aces or other squadrons are, to me, what set this game apart. Other games tried to do it, but I think that this one did it the best. I also like the soundtrack in this game better than the others, although Ace Combat 4 comes close. This one has a lot of Spanish guitar in it. It almost feels like when you're talking about confrontations with other aces, there's a bullfight going on, and the music certainly builds up that tension and ratchets up the energy to another level. So without further delay, let's go ahead and let's open this up. This does not have a security label on it. However, by 2006, I think that these security labels at the top of the games were gone. I think that those stopped being put on there. This could be repackaged. I don't know. I'll find out when I open it. Interestingly enough, there is an inventory control pad here that will try and, when we open the game, try and get around it. So let's go ahead and open this up. Hopefully this won't take too long. And actually, I know I got to reach out in front of the microphone here. There we go. Watching myself on camera to make sure that we get the entire shot. So we are now, yep, we are opening this up. There we go. So Ace Combat 0, the Belkan War. And when we open this up, hopefully the disc won't fall out. Oh, awesome. So here we go on the inside. You see the disc, which is here, and you see the instruction manual, which is here. As usual, we'll take a look at the instruction manual first. And again, this manual is also in color. There's not a lot of color to it, but what there is, you do get to see at least the screens in color. Here's an example of the game screens right here. So it is in color, which is a nice bonus, especially by 2006 when instruction manuals were beginning to go by the boards. You do get, I believe, you get a little bit of setup. No, it doesn't look it. I thought that they would, story. So they do talk about the story a little bit. The Principality of Belka, a former nation of heroic warriors. In the 1980s, the government sought to expand the principality's borders, but in the process stretched their resources too thin, inadvertently plunging the country in economic chaos. The Republic of Ustio, which is a former dominion of Belka. Basically, this is Europe. Let's call it what it is. This is an alternate version of Europe. Belka being Russia, Ustio being the United Nations around Europe. So it's this alternate reality, but at the same time, it feels very real. And when you're using actual aircraft, I think it fits in nicely. And the story is written, it's not too over the top, like, let's say, Ace Combat Assault Horizon, which is very, very realistic, but almost to the point where it's too realistic and not enjoyable. So this is awesome. If you have not played Ace Combat 0, I do recommend it. Because I think that it's a wild ride. It's fun to play. And I think what's most notable about it is for 2006, when we're looking at the introduction of new generation hardware, the PlayStation 2 still holds its own, at least with this game, in my opinion. And that is pretty remarkable. It shows the power that Namco had when it came to PlayStation hardware. Unfortunately, though, this was the last of the Ace Combat games that I really, really enjoyed. If you're talking about main consoles, Assault Horizon for the 3DS, as I've talked about before, is basically a remake of Ace Combat 2, and of course, I'm fine with that, with Ace Combat 2 being one of my favorite games. But Ace Combat Assault Horizon really didn't do much for me, and honestly, Ace Combat 6 just felt not quite what it should have been. The downgrade to 30 frames per second animation after all of these games were 60 frames felt like a step backwards. Although there were some things that were pretty interesting. There were interesting concepts that the Project Aces team had introduced. They really didn't hit home all that much. And the other thing, of course, with Ace Combat 6 was the introduction of the importance of multiplayer. There were a lot of missions that had multiplayer set at the heart. And for me, not being a multiplayer guy myself, that really didn't do much, or it doesn't do much for me in terms of being one of my favorite games. So when I look back at the series as we wrap up this series of Ace Combat games, this is my favorite one right here, without a doubt. In second place, it's really close between Ace Combat 2 and Ace Combat 4, then Ace Combat 5, then Air Combat, then Ace Combat 6, and then Ace Combat 3 at the bottom. And again, Ace Combat 3 kind of gets a little bit of the shaft because of the poor localization that Namco decided to carry through. I've heard so many things about the Japanese version being much better, but the version that we got is the only one that I can really judge because that's the one that I have, and that one is just a little bit of a letdown. So that's been a look at the Ace Combat games on the PS2. It has been awesome to be able to have 3 of these that I've been able to open on camera, all of them being Black Label, and now I have them all in my library. It does turn out that I did have all 3 Black Label that were used before, but those I'll be bringing to Retro World Expo with me in September, and we'll see what we're going to be doing with those at that point. Thank you very much for following along with me with this adventure, this Ace Combat adventure, as I've been recalling my own memories and thoughts about this series. I hope that you've had a chance to play these games. If you have, I'd love to hear about your experience with them. We'll be tackling some different games next time. I have a whole stack behind me here that I have to get to, including a couple that I got in today, but I'm not going to get into much detail about what those are. I'll take them as they come. It means a lot that you guys check out my stuff. If you do like it, please hit the little like button. It just shows me that you like what I'm doing. And feel free to leave any kind of comment. It's really cool to hear from you if there's a lot of people watching this. These are fun to make. It doesn't require a lot of time, and it just requires my webcam and me wearing random shirts. And these are a lot of fun to do. So thanks for watching, and until the next time, see ya.